Sup nerds, I'm Tom, and I'm going to talk to you real quick about Horizons by Daily Magic Games. So Horizons is a space-themed 4X game, which kind of not really, it's missing the extermination. It's explore, exploit, expand, exterminate, I think is the 4X's in 4X. But it's missing the extermination because you don't actually really fight with anybody. You fight for like majority control, and there's a little bit of like blocking kind of. But that's pretty much it. You draw tiles out of a bag and put them by the suns. That's kind of your like exploring. You build all these buildings to get you resources. You use those resources to buy you more buildings. You put out your colonies because that's how you really get points. You get majority control of areas, or minority control also, which is second place. They call second place minority control. I was reading the rules. I was like, wait, so majority control and minority control. So for whoever has the most and whoever has the least. Thought that wording was a little weird. But much like Scythe or Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea, you start out with kind of nothing and you grow and you build stuff that'll get you more resources and use those resources to build more stuff, and you control areas. The two other big things that you do in this game is there are mission cards so that you will get points at the end of the game if you do whatever the missions tell you. And there are ally cards that help you whenever you do a certain action. So you have actions on your board. You have 5 different actions. You take 2 every turn, and they're all associated with a little symbol. So you say, I'm going to take the explore action or the adapt action, but you look at that little symbol, and whenever you have an ally that also has that symbol, its text will trigger. So that's how you get to use these special abilities to help you get more resources or build things for cheaper or discard missions to get points for them. So there's a whole lot of cycling of missions because a lot of these missions are kind of hard to complete. Like a lot of them have to do with the tiles that are placed around the suns. You'll get a lot of missions that'll say, have a sun with one of each type around it, or have a sun that just has 3 of this type and 3 of that type. And you're not fully in control of that. You don't own like a sun. When you draw a tile from the bag, you put it around any system you want. Put it around any sun you want and create, that system. So you're not fully in control of that. So you do spend a lot of time drawing missions and dumping them and cycling through and saying, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that, or maybe I've already completed this type of thing. And then you also do spend a lot of time gathering allies. Because every time, once you have an ally, or when you have a couple allies, every time you take an action that doesn't also trigger an ally, you kind of feel like, oh, I'm kind of missing something there. Like, why didn't I get an ally so that way when I did this thing, it'll also trigger something else? And they are really powerful. They can get you a lot of resources, help you do things for cheap. So they're a pretty big deal. One of the things I like about this game are, of course, with Daily Magic Games, they're going to have pretty top-notch quality. Now, they don't have like miniatures and stuff. That probably would have made the game a lot more expensive. But they are pretty high-quality bits, these nice little wooden shapes of different colors. It's easy to just look out and see which is what. See that these hexagons are the metal collectors. Oh, nope, they're energy collectors. I just said it backwards. But it's really easy to just distinguish what's on the board. You can just glance out and get everything. And also your player board is organized pretty well. You have these nice little pieces that you put on a planet that you have adapted so that you can actually build on it. You can only build on the planets that you have that little tiny cardboard piece on there. The actions are laid out pretty nice. Again, on that board, like I said, you just take 2 actions, and when you look at that symbol, you'll look at the card. So I feel like the iconography is really good. The game's pretty easy to understand once you get it. The insert is really nice. The only complaint I have about the insert is that some of the wells are too narrow and deep, so you kind of really got to dig. But, minor complaints there. Now, on to some things that I didn't like about the game. One thing I will say is I never realized... I was underestimating how important it is for your first game to just play on the non-variable player side of the boards. I usually, maybe it's because I'm a little cocky, but I'm always like, whenever they suggest that you start off with this for your first game, and for later games, I'm always like, no, let's just do it all, And that's a pretty big deal with this one because the variable player powers are so variable. The actions are different. The actions will trigger different things, and some people, you can't build on planets, but you can build on suns, or you can't build on these planets. So teaching the game the first time was my first time playing it. We've had them all flipped up to the variable player powers, and I was like, okay, so whenever you take this action, here's what you do. When you take this action, here's what you do. And someone was like, that's not what my board says. Oh yeah, that's not what my board says either. I'm like, not just because of that, but because of a couple other things too, I kind of had like a negative experience my very first time playing this. I didn't really like it. I liked it better the next time I played it. Part of that was because I had the Extermination expansion in there, and I'll talk about that more in another video. But with those variable player powers, and it felt really clunky. I mean, we got it after a little while, but overall it put a bad taste in our mouth, and we didn't enjoy the game too much on that first playthrough. And the second time, I did like it better, but only so much. It's an okay game. It works. Nothing feels unbalanced or really clunky at all. And I mean, the word clunky doesn't even come in here. It feels really smooth. Everything makes a lot of sense. Everything triggers real well. Like, it's a very well-designed game. I just think overall it's a little bit weak. In terms of 4X games, so 3X, but really there is 4X in the expansion. We'll talk about that later. But in terms of these types of games, there are other games I would rather play Heroes of Landair Sea and Scythe way more. Granted, those are much larger games and longer games. So this does have that going forward. It has that it's a lot quicker and easier to understand. So there's that. I'd say that this is more like, my first 4X game. If you've never played any 4X games before, then this would be a good start. However, My Little Scythe is also my first 4X game. But if you don't like that cutesy theme, then yeah, this will be a lot better for you. So overall, I didn't love Horizons. I would play it again, but there's other games that I'd rather play in front of it. Definitely every time I play from now on, I'm going to include the Extermination expansion, but I would be okay not keeping this game in my collection. I'd be okay if Wes or Aaron owned it, or somebody, one of my other buddies owned it, and only played it with them. And I know it's weird to recommend that you purchase a game after I say that I don't really love it. We do have a purchase link in the description box down below if you want to just give me some money. And hey, while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.